Happy Monday. Hopefully, everyone's having a blessed Monday. The month is almost over, which is awesome, which means that we're 1 month closer to elections, which means it's 1 month closer to get rid of Biden. Gotta think of the positive, that's all. Just the positive sides of things. But there was a ruling. A lot of people are upset, a lot of people are happy. I'm going to try to explain it the best as I can. SCOTUS ruled that prayer is protected, even if you're employed by the government or any form of government, which is another big win in my opinion. Oh, of course, I forgot I actually rebooted my computer. So I gotta redo this. Let's see here. There we go. Excellent. So let's go ahead and get the First Amendment down. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting free exercise thereof, or abridging to the freedom of speech, or the press, or the right of the people to peacefully assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. That's pretty much it. That is pretty much it to it. Now, there's a separation of church and state, or state and church, which means that Congress will not recognize a particular religion or a particular church as the national religion or national church, which means that there's a separation. A lot of people get this confused when they're talking about separation of church and state because they think that no member of government shall promote any type of religion, whether that is through prayer or whatnot. But it just means that there's going to be no national church. Like there's going to be no Church of the United States as there's a Church of England or the Catholic Church in other countries. At least that's the way I understood it. Now I know that certain people hate it when I do CNN politics, but it's one of the very few ones that will let me actually view it. So of course CNN, according to these people, Adrian D. Vogue, Tierney Sneed, and Devin Cole, are very biased with this headline. Supreme Court further erodes the separation between church and the state in the case of praying football coach. Supreme Court said Wednesday that the Washington State School District violated the First Amendment rights of a high school football coach when he lost his job after praying at the 50-yard line after games. The opinion was that wasn't three, but 6-3 along conservative liberal ideological lines. The Constitution and the best of our tradition counsel mutual respect and tolerance, not censorship and suppression for religious and non religious views alike. Justice Neil Gorsuch wrote the majority opinion. The court said that Coach Joe Kennedy's prayer amount to private speech protected by the First Amendment and cannot be restricted by the school district. The decision lowers the bar between state or church and state in opinion, which allowed more religious expression in public spaces as in government spaces. The court clarified that the government entity does not necessarily violate the Establishment Clause by permitting religious expression in public. We are aware of no historically sound understanding of the Establishment Clause that begins to make it necessary for the government to be hostile towards a religion in this way, Gorsuch wrote. The Establishment Clause of the Constitution says Congress can make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting free exercise thereof. Kennedy praised the court's ruling in a statement on Monday, saying, "All I ever wanted was to be back on the field with my guys. I thank God for answering our prayers and sustaining my family through this long battle." He said the decision continues a trend of right leaning court, it's not really right leaning. Just because you say it's right leaning doesn't mean it's right leaning. This is where we're getting into the bias of CNN that just can't get rid of the oh my god, this is terrible, and they just call everything right leaning that they don't agree with. The decision continues a trend of right leaning court that has sided repeatedly in recent years with the religious conservatives. Last week, the court said Maine could not exclude religious schools from tuition assistance program in a 6-3 decision divided along ideological lines. So this, they're not actually going to talk about the actual reason why it is. In Maine, there's a lot of rural areas where there is no public school option available for whatever reason. You have, let's say, you have a Catholic church, a Lutheran church, a Judaism church, a Muslim church, and those are your only options. And what it was a tuition assistant, which means that the money followed the kid because there is no public school option. It has to go to a private school, and the issue is that there was one that was non-secular and one that was secular, and people decided to take their kids to a religious school because it was the closest or whatever reason was, and Maine was therefore violating the Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religions or prohibiting free exercise thereof by saying because this is a religious church, you're not getting taxpayer money, which has implications widespreading because that means that moving forward, if I don't like my school district and I want to take my school to a private school, the tax funds that would go to the public school will now transfer to the private school, regardless whether it's a religious or non religious. That's pretty much the scheme in the way that I understand it. Today's ruling, the court second major expansion of the Constitution protection of religion in the 6 days, says Steve Vladek, the CNN Supreme Court analyst, the professional, or not the professional, but the professor of the University of Texas School of Law. Last week, the court made it harder for states to decline to fund religious education. Today, the court is making it harder for secular schools to keep religion out of a extracurricular activity like high school football in the name of defending religious exercise. The court's conservative majority has neutered the First Amendment and other reference to religion. It's prohibiting state of sanctioning it. Justice Sona Sotomayor wrote for the three liberal dissenters, said that the court weakens the Establishment Clause backstop protecting religious freedom. I mean, it's really not because it's a private event. My understanding is he went there by himself, and I believe a couple of students followed suit, which makes it into this argument. But just because it's on the public sphere, as in government property, whether it's the local, state, or federal, you're still have your First Amendment protections. And if you want to do a prayer, you can do a prayer. It doesn't matter if it's Christian, Buddhism, Muslim, Hinduism, fill in the blank, even down to uh, Saintism, as long as there's no sacrifice. Let's see here. Kennedy began his prayer ritual soon after he was hired in 2008, but the school district grew concerned when Kennedy's short, quiet prayers grew in 2015 as players began joining him on the field, all while the crowd was still in the stands. The school district said it never restricted him from offering silent prayers, private prayer, and offered him an alternative place to pray off of the football field, off of his games or after his games, Kennedy refused accommodation and was ultimately placed on paid administrative leave and suspended from the program. After the season, he was given a poor performance evaluation. He did not seek a new contract, but instead filed suit arguing that the school district had violated his rights under the First Amendment. Kennedy lost his case in the district court level before the Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, which held that his prayer amounted to governmental speech that is not protected by the First Amendment. Before oral arguments in April, Kennedy told CNN in an interview that every American should be able to have faith in public and not worry about being fired over it. Kennedy, who is a Christian, said his prayers were meant to be to fulfill covenant and he made a praise to God after every game, win or lose. Yeah, this just kind of goes on and on and on. But pretty much free speech got a big win today. I'm not going to read the crap that CNN has to do. I mean, the CNN's going to spin it saying that this erodes the Establishment Clause of separation of church and state. Question is, Austin had a school. I think it was Austin High School. Yeah, I think it was Austin High School downtown, where there was a church service on the weekend. Pretty much what it was that a church was renting the school out. And I think they tried to use the separation clause and kick them out. And I don't think that church decided to file a suit. They just said, well, since we're not welcome, we'll just go somewhere else to practice our religion, which was interesting, which probably falls along lines with this. Similarities are different. There's some similarities and some different. But I don't think a silent prayer should be outlawed or anything, regardless of if it happens on the court in a privacy of the locker room or somewhere else. I think if he wants to go to the 50-yard line, he should be able to do that. And if students or football players want to join them, that is their right to do it. They're not being coerced into it. But let's face it, a lot of people are Christians. A lot of people are Muslims. A lot of people are whatever. But to say that they can't do it because of a certain clause that hasn't really been fleshed out is a bit of a stretch. And I'm glad that he won his case, been vindicated. And it should never have gone this far. Because it wasn't pre-game, it was post-game. And I think they singled him out because they wanted to. They probably didn't like something that he said or didn't like the fact that he was a Christian. Even though that probably wasn't determined, they just used that as a clause to get rid of him. But anyways, it's a big win for First Amendment. And I do like the First Amendment because I like to call my current president a dodo bird. Doesn't matter who the president is. I like the fact that I could call my elected leaders foolish, reckless, and dodo birds, and there's nothing that they could do about it. You go to other countries, call their leader a dodo bird, or if you're a member, call your leader a dodo bird. There's a good chance that you may not be coming home. And if you do come home, you're not going to be breathing. And that's why I love the First Amendment here in the United States. Because I can be critical of my elected leaders. And unless I'm doing a call of action that goes against the law, like I can't make threats against elected leader because that's a act of call to arms. So there is there's some restrictions onto it. Like I can't say I wish so and so would no longer be here in a very violent means because that's a call to arms or a call of actions. Now I could say that we should go celebrate a certain win peacefully. So that part is also protected. But anything that goes against the law of making active threats is against the law. Kind of a long-winded way of saying it. I hope everybody understands that. But anyways, leave a comment down below. Do you think this erodes? What's the erode separation between church and state, or is this a big win for First Amendment, being able to celebrate or express one's religion freely? I'm going with the latter because anytime that you could publicly display your faith is awesome. It doesn't even matter if it was Christian, Muslim, Hindu, or anything, as long as it's not breaking the law, is a win. Leave a comment down below on what your thoughts are. Smash the like and subscribe button in any all platforms or just the platform you're currently watching. But most importantly, have yourself a wonderful day, morning, or evening.